The story of our world every day. Listen and your heart may open up. If ever you feel frightened of our world that's washed away, a mother is a mother, come to us. Women, 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 women. Women sew the fabric of our world every day. History of violence made it through. The stories that we share will all live on until we say these truths are our gifts passed on to you, women.
Hello everyone, I'm Lisa Liebau and this is the Scheherazade Project's hashtag 101 Nights show. We're counting down to the most pivotal election of our time by featuring at least one woman's story in any art form each night through November 2nd, 2020, to urge all Americans to use their voices to vote. Join us live every night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Tonight's featured artist is FM Deemyad. She was born in Kermanshah, Iran, and grew up in the capital, Tehran, attending bilingual schools run by Christian and Jewish minorities. Her father, born and raised in India and influenced by his father, a teacher of English literature, moved to Iran in his 20s and exposed FM to the English language from an early age. She loved classic literature under her father's instructions. She earned a master's degree in writing from Johns Hopkins University. Watch for her debut novel scheduled for release in February 2021. A very warm welcome to FM Deemyad.
This is a chapter in my soon-to-be-published novel, The Sky Worshippers, the Bride of Baghdad. If that maiden from Shiraz wins my heart, I will grant her the lands of Samarkand and Bukhara, just to reward the beauty mark on her sweet complexion. Hafiz, 14th century Persian poet. Prior to the ascension of the Khwarezm dynasty to the throne, the Seljuks ruled Persia and Transoxiana. Unlike the current rulers, the old dynasty, also a Turkic one, was known for its benevolence toward the subjects and appreciation for the Persian language and culture. An ancient palace in the suburbs of Samarkand had now become the former royal's abode. Persian subjects of Khwarezm Shah would have revolted if he had granted the Seljuk family a less than honorable place to stay. The ancient structure, although run down, still retained a portion of its former grandeur. Images of flowers and birds depicted on a mosaic frieze adorned its exterior. Tiny mirror tiles embellished the white interior of the multi-story pavilion. White marble steps that led to marmoreal flooring still maintained their luster. Its carpets, some over 100 years old, looked threadbare, but the servants and chambermaids who had tended to the needs of the Seljuk family for generations made sure that the palace remained in presentable condition and that the garden continued to brim with roses in spring. The family was sidelined, though, and remained outside political and social circles. Although the former king had passed away long ago, just about everyone in Samarkand still called his family by their royal names, and sentries known as Qarovals provided security services when called upon. Princess Rayhan, the witty granddaughter of the last Seljuk king, had reached the peak of her beauty. For further attainment in that area did not seem possible to her admirers, who grew in numbers by the day. Rayhan's beauty was of the kind that commanded respect. When she shyly lifted her long curled lashes, her large hazel eyes were like round-cut amber upon her porcelain face. She looked fragile as she carried herself with the poise and grace of members of royalty. Tensions were running high between Khwarezm Shah and the Caliph of Baghdad. Mistrust had grown between the two leaders, especially since rumors had begun to circulate that the Caliph had secretly encouraged the Mongols to attack Persia. The Caliph, motivated both by the desire to mitigate tensions with the Persian subjects of the Shah and the stories he had heard about Rayhan, made her a proposal of marriage on behalf of his son. Such a match would win the hearts and minds of the citizens who had admired the Seljuk kings and despised Khwarazm Shah. At the same time, it was meant as a snub to the Shah, who did not want members of a formal dynasty finding a lofty status in society. It was a time known to Europeans as the Ides of March in the year 1220 AD. Persian astronomers had calculated the precise timing of each month based on Earth's rotation around the sun. In less than a week, at the exact moment of the commencement of spring, Nowruz, or New Day festivities that lasted for 13 days, would begin. As nature augured the season of hope with the melting snow and the warming earth, the family decided that the wedding should take place on the very first day of the ancient festivities. The news of the wedding had placed fresh focus on the family of the former king. The word former was dropped from all conversations, however, as residents of Samarkand shared the joy of young Princess Rayhan. Rayhan and her family used the private pool of the palace for bathing. Only on special occasions, like the upcoming wedding of Princess Rayhan, did they venture out to the main bathhouse of Samarkand, which would then be closed to all commoners. A sign stating so, as well as the presence of Qarovals outside the bathhouse, warded off inquisitive passers-by. The bathhouse had white steps that led to a green door with two small windows at each side. Hours before the arrival of the princess, 10 Qarovals had stood at considerable distances from one another in front of the bathhouse, each almost invisible to the other at dawn. No pedestrian or vendors lingered nearby, for all had heeded the morning call to prayers. A unit of 10 Mongol warriors dressed as bathhouse workers approached the Qarovals from behind. The Mongols had covered their faces in the red checkered cloth used as towels in such public places. Before the Persian Qarovals realized the presence of encroaching enemy, and before fear could settle into their hearts, their throats were slit one by one. They made no noise as they succumbed to death. In the eerie quiet of dawn, the Mongols dragged the bodies of their victims into the empty bathhouse and dumped them where they would not be discovered for days to come. By the time Princess Rayhan and her companions arrived, the sun had squeezed through the branches and left its trace on the pavement, shedding light on the bright red drop of blood, too small to be noticeable. The former crime scene appeared innocent, and nothing was out of the ordinary. The Mongols, wearing the outfits of the slain Qarovals, with blood rinsed out of them, performed guard duty as expected. The fact that they held their heads down was merely attributed to their piety and reluctance to stare at the ladies entering the premises. The special preparations made for Rayhan's arrival surprised the Persian princess and her chambermaids, who had accompanied her. Water flowing from a fountain splashed onto the deep green tiles of the pool, which stood in the middle of a large space. A vaulted ceiling, painted the color of fresh-made butter, met halfway down the walls with tiles of light color, studded with emerald green pieces of marble. Petals of rose, a flower grown and revered for centuries in Persia, filled the surface of the pool, and the scent of rose oil added to the water infused the bathhouse with an intoxicating aroma. After all, few were the times when the old royal family visited the place. Princess Rayhan's chambermaids washed her hair with an aromatic potion of green lotus powder called sedge, which made it the color of ripe dates. Thus she got prepared for the next day's ceremony of applying henna paste to her hands and feet in elaborate designs as required by tradition. Looking fresh and renewed, the party left for the bazaar in several horse-drawn carriages which had been arranged to spirit them away at the appointed time. The Mongols, dressed as Qarovals, followed them in their own coaches, maintaining a distance. The intruders wouldn't attack the women at such a public locus, for the entire city would begin pursuing them within minutes. As Princess Rayhan entered the bazaar, an elderly woman who appeared to be the wife of an even older shopkeeper with snow-white head called out to her, "Shazda Khanum, Lady Princess." She brought out an incense burner to ward off evil from the bride-to-be, and the smoke of dried rue seeds in it rose. She prayed for the princess's health. "May the angels protect you, my dear Khanum," she said with sincerity. The numerous customers of the bazaar had still not quite worn the cobblestone pathway that ran through its length. In the virtually empty marketplace, the sounds of shop owners resonated as they called out, "Shazda Khanum, look at this fabric. Shazda Khanum, see this beautiful gem." It had been a while since Rayhan had come to the Grand Bazaar. Her fellow countrymen had to go through so much trouble for her to maintain security that she shied away from the place and sent her chambermaids instead. Two Mongolian spies dressed as beggars waited patiently in the bazaar until finally the opportunity they were expecting presented itself. They had informed their superiors in advance that the youngest daughter of the king, who intended to marry the son of the Caliph of Baghdad on the very first day of Nowruz, would arrive with her entourage to make her purchases for the occasion. Thus they had planned for the abduction of the princess. The act would strike terror in the hearts of the inhabitants and leave them vulnerable during the ensuing invasion. On that Sunday, a sign bearing the Persian word "Qoro," meaning reserved, was placed at the entry of the bazaar, assuring the two spies of the timing of their royal visit. One of the fake beggars, hiding underneath a table displaying rolls of exquisite fabric, could see the hem of the princess's pink skirt dancing in the breeze. At times the soft fabric caressed the fingers of the ruffian, tempting him to touch the polished leather of the princess's pointed-toe boots. Her boots were a far cry from the rugged footwear he had seen back home. He pulled away his fingers, though resisting the temptation, knowing that if caught, he would certainly be hanged. The other impostor had the inconvenience of being stationed outside the bazaar's roof under a peeping hole, right above the goldsmith's shop. Despite the heavy rain that had soaked his clothes, he must have hoped to at least catch a glimpse of the fair ladies' faces, for surely they would stop at the jeweller's corner. Luck was on his side. Not only did they come in, but were in his full view as they closely examined the fine craftsmanship of the flawless marvels of gold and silver. Delight sparkled in his eyes as he watched the fair maidens try on a number of rings and bracelets. Knowing that the Mongol warriors would soon arrive, however, he left his post and ran toward the entrance of the marketplace to await further orders. He did not have to wait long, because the famous falcon of the Mongol prince flew above his head and perched on the roof of the bazaar.
Thanks for joining us tonight. If our featured artists inspire you to share a story of your own, everyone, all genders, can help the grassroots spread. Post your literary, visual, or performing arts on Instagram or Twitter with hashtag 101 Nights. That's 101 NIGHTS. You don't have to be the featured artist to join the movement. If you're a creative or just have a favorite story you want to share, post it on Twitter or Instagram and include hashtag 101 Nights.
Women sew the fabric of our world every day. History of violence made it through. The stories that we share will all live on until we say these truths are our gifts passed on to you. Women.